Hi guys, it's Kelly here and I'm back with another video. Today's video is featuring some projects from Outta. This is the Stylish Greetings, and then I'm going to use the Dancing Cosmos. This is, you can buy them separately, you can buy them as a bundle for the 3D embossing folder and the stencils. And we're going to be making 2 cards today. So I have a Spellbinders Platinum 6, so my sandwich is the A plate, then my folder with my paper, and then my D, like David, adapter plate. And so the first one I'm doing the way that you, like I think most of us would. I just put the paper like right into the embossing folder and then I just got the middle. So because these are a little bit larger, we can actually kind of mess around and get different looks out of them. So you can tuck it all the way over to the right, or all the way over to the left. You can also, if you have a little bit of a larger machine here, like I have with the Platinum 6, I can let the paper overhang also a little bit. And then that's going to give me a design that's all the way really far to the right with lots of empty space to the left. And it's going to offer a completely different look than the one that has the 3D embossing all throughout the cardstock. So I do, we're going to get into the coloring here shortly, and then I have a special offer for you guys. So just hang tight with me. So here you can see one, the design's all the way to the right, the other one, the design's in the middle, and I am going to be doing both of these. So if you love 3D embossing folders, like I do, I'm a big fan of them. But I also love coloring, and so sometimes I struggle to color my 3D embossing folders because the typical mediums that I would use don't always work well. So thankfully, Outta typically has stencils that coordinate with their 3D embossing folders, and that makes it very easy to color them. I'm using their ultra sticky mat here. This is actually the inside of my original stamp wheel. And then I put my cardstock down, I put my stencil on top of it, and then I can go in and do my ink blending. Ink blending is not necessarily a coloring medium that I would go to right out the gate because I do enjoy kind of making it my own, but you can kind of do that. Stencils is absolutely the easiest way to color these. You can kind of make it your own by the colors that you choose and how you layer them. So I chose, here I'm just double checking to see what part should be light and what part should be dark. I chose an ink bundle that is the, hold on, what is it? It's Pink Diamond, and then it's the Cherry Blossoms bundle. That's what I know it as. That's what I know it as. And Pinkalicious, Rubelite, and then Razzleberry, I think is the 3. And so oftentimes I think we are tempted to just put down like 1 color or 2 colors in our stenciling. But if you really work your ink colors and apply shading like you would with regular coloring, you can still get a very dimensional image with just ink blending. So then here, because I'm doing 2 cards, I'm going to do the stencil one time and then I'll go in and do it another time. So sneaky, unexpected tip for this. If you're trying to very quickly ink blend and get lots of color variation, using a dirty stencil is actually going to be to your benefit because I have those darker inks that are already on there. So when I go in with that Pink Diamond, that light ink, it kind of automatically adds a little bit of shading to the bottom, like where it's going to join the petals, just because it's already on the stencil and I'm picking it up with that lighter color. So if you're trying to do multiples fast, don't clean your stencils in between. So anyway, Outta does make it really easy because they are in like those color families. So you have 4 colors that will automatically work together. And this is something they have always done. They do 4 color blends with their markers. They do 4 color blends with their original inks. Now these fresh dye inks also have the, like the 4 color blend. And it just makes it so we really don't have to think about it. They're setting us up for success without us having to try to figure out what works together. So then I'm going to move on to stencil number 2, and I'm going to do the same exact thing. I'm going to start with my lightest color and work out to my darkest color. If you get out to your darkest color and you're feeling like your ink blending is a little bit disjointed, you can always go back through from your darkest back out to your lightest, and it will help to blend everything together. Also, Altenews inks kind of settle as they dry. Here, I lost my mind. What happened to me, guys? So there, I did exactly what I told you, like, don't do if you want a dimensional image. I did one layer of color and then I moved my stencil. So that you can totally see unintentionally, because I was just like in the, in the zone of doing things. What they look like when you do just one layer versus when you do all 4 of the colors and, work to get that dimension. So this one, I will show you it all the way through. And then as we go through, I'm only going to show you one of them because it is the same image. Even though we're getting 2 different looks, it's still the same 3D embossing folder and it's still the same stencils. But you may be asking yourself, like, Kelly, why are all of your cards pink and green? That's an excellent question. First of all, they're complementary colors, so I know that they're going to work well together. But also, I think, like, it's my preferred. I like pink. So it's like kind of my preferred color combination to put them together. In this case, I made these cards specifically because I needed a card to go with my meal train. So one of the people that I used to work with, my husband still works with, his wife was having surgery. See, now we're going to bring these back in and I'm going to do all 4 of them. I'm going to do all 4 of them so that they make sense together. And then look at those beautiful cosmos. So anyway, here is where it gets a little bit tricky. So with Altenews stencils, in order to keep the costs down, they do combine layers on their stencils. But there's a line in between them. So you'll see that this area here, which is just the highlight portion, it's just like the very light portion of the petals that curl up, is on the same one as a large portion of the greenery. So in those cases, I just use a little bit of low tack tape. In this case, I'm using mint tape to just mask those corners and make sure I don't get ink anywhere I don't want it. And it'll be the same thing with the, when I'm lining it up and I have that, like how I would do this here. I'm going to clean this up and then I'm going to put it back into place with the leaves. And I'm going to have some openings where the top portion is. And like, I'm not being crazy, obviously, with my ink blending, but I am, if it's closer to it, then I can put some tape over there. And then that way it'll block it off. So that's something that you'll see a little bit more once we get to the next stencil, which has like the flower centers and then more of the greenery. But anyway, so his wife had surgery and they had done like a meal train. So I picked, because I don't want to have to go, I'm such a homebody now. I don't want to have to go out more often than I need to. So I picked back-to-back days. I did Tuesdays a Wednesday and a Thursday. So then I made 2 meals. I made lasagna and I made vegetable beef soup. And so then I dropped them both off on Wednesday, and I needed a card to put with it. And I didn't really have a like get well or like thinking of you kind of card that fit the bill. And so that's what I made these ones for. And I did give the card away. Aren't you proud of me? But I did hand deliver it. I did hand deliver it. So I told you I don't mail things, but I will hand deliver them on occasion. I did actually get out of my pajamas to go do that, only because I had to pick peanut butter up from it was his last day of bowling. His bowling league was over and they were doing their pizza party. So I had to go get that, and then I dropped off the food, and then actually we got his haircut the same day, which I just told you guys about his haircut in my last video. So here I did the same thing with the greens, worked out to that darkest color. Love the dimension that we're getting here. I'm going to do the same greens on this one where it's just a little side. And then for this one, this is what I'm talking about, where it has the centers and the stems. they are two different colors, and I don't want to get green in my centers. I wanted my centers to be yellow. Also, just something to mention, I did take my yellows out of their color family. So even though Altenew is really kind and they give us colors that will work together, you don't necessarily have to use them. If you have another combination in mind. So I just pulled out Sunray and Melted Butterscotch, and that's going to be my two centers that will, I just wanted to add just a little bit of shading, a little bit of dimension, into the middles. Now, I will tell you, like I did those first. Originally, I was going to block them off. You saw the tape. And I was like, no, because if I pick up some of the yellow with my green, I won't care about that. Versus if I pick up some of the green when I'm trying to put down the yellow, I will care about that. So I just very quickly kind of wiped around that so that I could put the tape down. But because it was still a little bit wet, my tape didn't stick that well. That was user error. So I did just hold them kind of in place with my fingers where I needed to, and then just went in with those same greens. So we started talking about why stencils, obviously they're made for coloring these images. So obviously that's going to be the easiest way to do it. A lot of the other coloring mediums that we would use, for me, alcohol markers, it's very challenging with 3D images because there's no lines, and you're coloring raised images. So it can be very challenging to get the ink where you want it to go because alcohol markers are made to saturate the paper. Well, if you saturate a 3D embossed image, then you're going to lose the embossed portion of the image. The other thing that I tried to do was colored pencils, and I struggled doing the colored pencils because I needed to push to get the colored pencil onto the raised areas, and then I was flattening out that embossing. I imagine watercolor would probably be the same way. Here I wanted to add some color into the background, and so I am using these, what are these? These are the small ink blending brush. They're like the flat ones. This worked really well for me. I used dewdrops for that. So watercolor, again, we're saturating the paper. Now, if you're using watercolor cardstock, you probably could get away with that, because it is made to resist the water so that the pigment sits on top. But the easiest way that I have found to add color outside of stencils, which is buying, specifically that product, is paint pens. So Altenew has their acrylic marker sets. They have volume 1 and volume 2. I did a whole video where I colored all of my images with my acrylic markers. Today, I'm just going to use them to add the details to the centers of the flowers. These are completely opaque. I love the way that they're packed, by the way, because they have this little brace at the front and it holds all of them. You just pull it down, pull out the marker you want, pop it back in, and everybody goes back to where they belong. And so I'll link it at the end in case you haven't seen it. I did a whole video on how I colored my 3D embossed images with these acrylic markers, and it worked amazing. Here I'm just doing the details and the highlights. But this is the special offer. So Altenew is very generously offering 40% off their Ultimate Acrylic Marker Duo Bundle. Now, these are normally over $30 a piece. With the 40% off, it makes them less than $20. And the code for that is Kelly Color. I'll link it below in YouTube. So if you've been on the fence about these, I highly recommend them. I think they work so well, especially if you are somebody who loves to add the details to your cards, or you really want to color your 3D images and don't necessarily have stencils for all of those 3D images. This works really, really great. So I added a shadow with my darker green to my leaves, and you saw me do the little dots in the center. Like I said, they're opaque, so they sit right on top of the ink blending that we did, and it's a nice way to add bright highlights. For here, I'm also going to use this pink to add a little bit of shading to, Cosmos always have ruffly edges. So just by adding just a little bit of a flick of color, a little like mini kind of like triangle from the edges in toward the center, it's going to give those petals a lot more shape. And I didn't really have to do anything besides just like a little flick of the marker. And so it's going to help make them more dimensional, which you guys know me, I'm a big fan of. This is, I did the flowers just on one of them, not on the other, so that you could see the difference. For my sentiment, I'm cutting the shadow out of the Forest Glades cardstock. I'm doing Take Care and Hugs. I wasn't sure which one I was going to use for my card. I ended up going with the Take Care, if you're curious. And then I cut the actual words out of white. I'm going to just use some liquid adhesive to glue these down to the shadow. This is just super simple. You could absolutely stack them if you prefer that look. I like the shadow. I feel like the green blended in really nicely with the greenery that we had created with the stencils. And so I'm just, moving those, getting them into place, and then I will, I put them both kind of, I guess, in the same spot on the different cards, just because I guess that looked the best to me. I don't know. But so for the Take Care, I originally was like, should I put it in the top? And then I was like, no, I don't love it. So I put it down in the bottom left to kind of fill out that whole diagonal. And then for the Hugs, I looked at putting it up at the top or down at the bottom, and I liked how it filled out the bottom just a little bit better. I am, of course, because I can't leave anything alone, I am going to add a little bit of clear shimmer to these. They are dye-based ink, so you just want to be careful you're not moving too much of your ink around. I didn't notice too much of an issue, but then that's it. Those are both cards. So that coupon is good through February 13th through the 15th. If you're interested, the details will be below. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. I appreciate your time, and I will catch you on the next video. Bye.